So hi, I am Jen Cushman. I'm a mixed media artist, and I am still showing you how to mix and pour and use resin, a two-part epoxy jeweler's resin. So here we go. We're going to be working with open back bezels. This is a technique that Susan Leonard-Kasmer, my business partner, invented, and it's a really fun one. And she used this to have open back bezels for your jewelry. So this is a backless bezel, and people always wonder, how do you keep the resin from spilling out? So it's very easy. You actually take a piece of packing tape, or you take a piece of duct tape, or you can take a piece of, well, that's pretty much it. That, I'm trying to think of that heavy duty tape that you have. But anyway, so you can just take it. All you do is you take your backless bezel and you put it on top of your piece of tape. Obviously, you're going to put the back of the bezel on top of the sticky side of the tape. So you've got that working. Pull your tape down a little bit and then cut this off. Put that aside. Now, this is a little tip. I actually like to just take your little tape edges and I like to roll them on top of each other, because guaranteed if you don't do that, you're going to pour your bezel and you're going to stick your arm in it, or the tape's going to stick to it, or something's going to happen. So if you if you kind of put these pieces on top of each other, you have a less chance of it sticking somewhere. So now what you want to do is you want to turn it upside down, and you want to really burnish good with your finger, the back of a spoon, even the back of your scissors that you have here. But this is a really important step, because if you don't get a good burnish, you might end up getting your resin leaking out, and then you're going to have to do cleanup later. So as long as you get a nice, good, firm burnish on there, then you've got your open back bezel ready to go. So, got a good open back area going on there. I've got my ice resin mixed and ready to go. And now I'm going to create a collage for it. So one of the things I love to do is work with mulberry paper or rice paper. It's very thin and has great paper fibers. The resin loves to wick into this kind of paper fiber. So instead of actually cutting a triangle, because I want part of it I wanted to have part of it completely translucent, since that's the point of a open back bezel. So I'm just going to kind of tear a little strip from it. And I'm not being perfect with it. I just want to create a little bit. Let me just check it to make sure it's going to go in there fine. It is. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. Now, one of the things you want to do when working with an open back bezel is you want to make sure that after you put that down, you go ahead and you put some resin into your bezel before you even begin to insert your images. You want to create that nice coating on the back for you, so you've got a good coating of the resin against the back of the sticky back tape. And then when you have a challenging shape or an interesting shape like this triangle that you have, you really want to take your craft knife or a piece of wire that you have, or a toothpick or something hanging around, and you want to just kind of really work that into the corners. So nice working into the corners. And you want to just fill that to where it's maybe a third, your bezel's a third full. And you want to put that in there, nice smooth. And you'll notice that I tried to make sure that the back of it's smooth, doesn't have any wrinkles and stuff. So now I'm going to take my piece of resin paper, and I'm going to I just like to put a little bit of resin on the back of the paper. It just helps when you embed things into the resin. It helps create a bit of a seal for it. Your fingers will get messy, but you can use gloves if you want to. Then I'm just going to lay this piece of paper in here. I'm not pushing it down. I'm just laying it in there. You can see already that it almost kind of just looks like a little ghosty image. There's not much to it, but I've got that there. I'm going to add a little bit more resin on top of it. And one of the things I tell people when you first start working with resin, just go slow and take your time. Just kind of do drip by drip. It's really easy to over pour and overfill if you move fast. So if you take your time and you go slow, then you're going to just be able to do it in a much more controlled and perfect manner. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to embed a half of a rhinestone in there. I'm going to take that, I'm going to put that right in. I'm just going to work that in there. And gosh, I really like the way that looks, so I was planning to add a word, but I don't think I'm going to, because I like the way that's looking. But I do think I'm going to add a tiny bit of glitter into it, just a little touch of glitter. This very fine glitter will lift, so what that means is when you put the glitter in, if you're adding it to here, when I pour the resin on top of it, you're going to see the resin the glitter kind of move around and lift up. So you can pour it on at the very final stage if you don't want it to lift. So now I'm just going to fill up my bezel. See, that's what I mean by lifting. I hope the camera caught that. It just kind of took the glitter and it just kind of moved it all around and didn't keep it in that nice little spot that I put it into. But that's okay. So now I'm taking my bezel. I'm just filling it up. Ice resin is naturally self-doming, so it will create that wonderful little dome and that bubble on it without no work to it, as long as you just be controlled with your pour. And there you go. That's all there is to it. So then what you'll do with this is you will just leave this. You can come back in about 30 minutes. You can check to see if you have any bubbles that have come to the surface. If they do, you will pop them with a toothpick. Again, the bubbles are really not caused in the mixing or anything. It's usually caused when you are embedding your objects into them. So that's why after about 30 minutes, 20-30 minutes, you want to come check. If you see any bubbles, you just take a piece of wire or a toothpick and you pop them. Don't stab at them, don't get real hard, just kind of very gently pop them, and then that will happen. And then you put this aside to dry. It takes anywhere from 6 to 12 hours, depending on the season, what the weather is of your room. It really loves to be at a 69, 70, 72 degrees is what it loves. But anyway, you put it aside to dry. Don't touch it. The hardest part is to leave it alone and let it do its thing. So just let it go, because if you put it aside, it will come crystal clear and perfect every single time. So that is pouring and making an open-backed resin bezel. And I'm Jen, and thank you.